Hello, everybody. So good to have you guys here with me. Good to see you, Richard. Good to see you here, Paula. And the rest of our friends will join us whenever they join us. All right. It is the 28th of January, and I am in Florida. Last time you guys saw me a couple weeks ago doing an Ascension with A Course in Miracles, I had my oxygen mask on and I was given an impassioned presentation, felt guided to help humanity just see that we are at that point where the timelines have split. They've already split. This decision was made already a while ago. The trains have left the station. It's just a matter of getting honest. What track are you on? Which track did you choose? Love or fear, God or ego? A happy dream or the same old insanity, going around in circles expecting different results. So it's super, super exciting. I drove 3 days from Colorado to get down to sea level so that I could be over here in Florida and be able to have the experience of just allowing my lungs to fill up again, to breathe again. Altitude, as some of you know, is can do a thing. Oh, but it didn't seem to affect me when I first moved to Colorado 3 years ago, or I've been visiting my daughter there for the past, she's been there almost 20 years. So I've been going up there and I could breathe okay, it seemed. And but man, once I started having all of the dental work done and had the root canal infections and that happening, it just began to weaken this body vessel and then caught that upper respiratory infection. And man, it was really, it did a number on my lungs and that I couldn't breathe. What an interesting experience that is. Hello, brother Mike. Good to see you there. It's been a little while.
It's been a while. Yes, it has.
Yes, well, Happy New
Hopefully,
Year to you.
and a happy new year to you. And I trust you're feeling much better.
Much better. I was just sharing. Coming down to sea level was absolutely when the doctor said, actually, my daughter said, should my mom go down to sea level? The doctor said, absolutely. That would be like the thing that if these antibiotics and this steroids and this inhaler, if this doesn't work, then she's got to get off the mountain. So we were moving in that direction. And boy, what a difference it makes to, I mean, literally, I left Frisco, 9,075 foot elevation. I got to Denver, 5,000 foot of elevation. I could already feel the difference in an hour and a half. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel that elephant on my chest. And then, of course, from there was a steady um, decline in elevation all the way down to here. I am in Florida, sea level, and it is. Oh, I can breathe. I um I could probably go outside and run a lap or two and not feel totally winded. So, but I'm not running. Don't worry. Ah, anyhow, I am so so excited with this last couple of months, the time of quiet, the time of laying in bed because there was not much else I could do. I spent quite a few weeks just laying in bed, and one, I didn't have the energy. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't hold a breath e- enough to be able to get up and get moving. I would walk a couple of steps and I was just so tired. And anyhow, a lot of that time laying there and wondering, am I, is this my exit strategy? Is this what I planned? This is not very glamorous. What happened? What was I thinking? She's gonna die of not breathing, boring, but it was just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to just lay there and be in acceptance and I've been writing this in my newsletters. And by the way, I have a newsletter. I call it practical wisdom, and it's to teach people through my the example of my life and through classes that I offer. I take some of the highlights and I put them into the newsletter, and that is in part of the Awareness Academy, but it's free. Anybody can sign up for that. And those come out every week. And then I've got my email list where if that's where most people are that follow me are in the email list. So if I post it, I definitely will, or if I share an email, I will post it. So it'll always be in practical spirituality. And I just want to help people see the path that I've taken. I can't tell you about any else's path. I cannot vouch for anybody else's way of doing anything. I only know my way, and I know how long it's taken me, and I know where I'm at. I am very honest about where I'm at. I started this journey about 25 years ago, 22 to be exact. What is it, 26 now? 24 to be exact. Started 2002. So what has happened is when I was inspired to begin teaching in 2007, which was 5 years after I started this journey, and I was like, who am I to teach? I mean, I don't know anything about awareness. I don't know anything about having a center for awareness. All of that was foreign to me, but I was faithful. And I listened to that guidance within because it was so clear, was so certain. I knew it was in me. And I began to teach mostly people who were newer on their journey. That was like a beginning time of researching and searching, and Eckhart Tolle was becoming popular then, so his book A New Earth was super popular. That was my first book club, was Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. We had like 40 some odd people who came to the center on a weekly basis, and we were going through that book, and then we did The Untethered Soul, and then we did a whole bunch of other books. I couldn't even tell you the titles of them because we did that for a long time. And I met people mostly earlier on in their journey, but where I am in my journey, I am, I'm going to say that I stopped seeking about 10 years ago. I knew that when I dove into A Course in Miracles, about 2, 3 years into A Course in Miracles, I knew I need to stop seeking. The ego is what keeps us seeking. The ego is what keeps us searching and looking for the next shiny object and the next teacher and the next teaching and the next workshop and the next thing to do and get involved with, blah, 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 blah. And I had a moment where it was like, stop, stop, and acknowledge what you are. And in that space of realizing all of everything that I was sharing was pretty much based on A Course in Miracles. The workshop that I was teaching that was given to me, the power of awareness, looking back in hindsight, is just the cliff notes to A Course in Miracles. So I was being prepped for about 4 or 5 years with A Course in Miracles before I could recognize, oh, this is the cliff notes to A Course in Miracles. So I've been immersed in simply understanding that there are two options only. Let me see, let me grab this. Since I'm not in my regular space, I'm a little discombobulated with, there's only two options. There is God and there is ego. There is love and there is fear. That is it. The minute that you decide to stop seeking is the minute that you just have a simple choice to make. What are we seeking for? Well, the seeking is a very important part of the journey. It has us begin to question what we know. It has us begin to become open-minded. And these are characteristics of a teacher of God. It begins to create an opening whereby we're not defaulting to my I know it all mind. Once we begin to become open-minded, we receive guidance, we receive information. The whole universe is conspiring to help us because anybody who starts the journey of seeking is somebody that the universe already knows. God already knows that one incarnated to begin their journey on March 4th, 1973. This one's going to start their journey on, you know, April 40 or 40, April 4th, let's say, of 1983. And this one's going to start it with an accident. This one's going to start it with cancer. This was going to start it with a divorce. The universe is already queued up. Why? Because the Course tells us the script is written. There is nothing random that is happening. There is simply a coming to the point in your journey that you have set the stage for you to begin to question. The questioning allows you to override the I'm right ego, the I know it all ego, and begin to receive additional information. It's like planting seeds that help you sort the world out basically into two categories. Very simple. There's the love side, there's the fear side. In the beginning, some people can't hear that it's God, and they can't even hear that it's ego. But it's more love, joy, and peace, more mindfulness, less stress. Most people start there. More abundance, less, living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people start there. More beautiful relationships and finding a soulmate and less being alone. A lot of people can start there. But if you move up to the 30,000-foot view, all that we are doing is recognizing I don't want more of this, I want more of that. And the more that we're looking for, yes, in the beginning of the search, the ego is the one who is going to be leading the charge. The soul is activating the curiosity, but the ego is going to co-opt the journey. Oh, I am learning about the law of attraction. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to get a better partner. I'm going to get a better body. It's all about what can I get that's going to make my life better. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that because we're entitled to miracles. We're entitled to abundance, to love, to joy, to peace. That is our birthright. However, as the ego is going along with us, it is attempting to get all of these things for its own personal gain, including spirituality. This is why, if you study the teachings of Jesus through that have been channeled, we got A Course in Miracles, we've got the Way of Mastery, we've got A Course of Love. In the Way of Mastery, there is one line, and you only need one line in that big fat book to tell you that the spiritual ego is the last egg to be cracked. Because when the ego co-opts spirituality, it is still doing it for selfish pursuits. And that is what keeps us seeking to become more, to get more, to become a guru, to have more followers, to have a New York Times bestseller. I know it. My ego wanted all those things. But life kept taking me down a path that was like, nope, nope, we're taking things away. We're going to take things away, Laina. You're not accumulating. You're on the path of letting go. And again, in hindsight, looking back, what a gift. What a gift to have things taken away. What a gift for that marriage to complete. What a gift for letting go of the material stuff, to let go of, my lake house and let go of my money and let go of all that stuff because it has brought me to a place of such simplicity. I don't want for anything. I absolutely trust. Not only do I trust, I'm expecting for everything to be taken care of because I'm entitled to that. I'm a child of God. When I stopped seeking, I realized, wait a second, how about if I start accepting what I am? What if we flip the journey? And I realized that was the Holy Spirit talking to me, saying, yes, exactly. Flip the journey. Stop seeking. Because the seeking is always sending us out there to find the next thing that the spiritualized ego can then say, oh, I've got a certificate in Reiki. Oh, I'm a Reiki master number 1. I'm a Reiki master number 2. I'm a Reiki master number 43. And you can stay on that journey trying to get more Reiki master certificates or more tarot card reading certificates and more, whatever. And there is nothing wrong with any of them. Every one of those things is a stepping stone on the journey. But at some point, you've got to get off the journey that keeps you looking outside of yourself and make the decision to come within. Because to find out who you are is to sit with you, is to accept everything that we've been told. Again, if you're a student of A Course in Miracles and the course tells you that you are holy, what does that mean? What does that feel like to sit? I am holy. To sit with those words and to just not try to read about them, not try to study them, but what does it feel like to be holy and to just sit with that? And tears would just start pouring out of me when all of a sudden I was like, my whole life I've been holy and I didn't know it. I was trying to become good. I was trying to become the best. I was trying to become whatever, the New York Times bestseller. I was trying to become something while all along I was holy. I could not be holy. Holiness itself created me, and I'm made in the image of that. And to sit with the I am holy and let the tears just wash away all of the times that I felt not good enough, not worthy enough, not special enough, that I felt abandoned, that I felt not smart enough, not whatever, didn't measure up, or I was too much, or I was too extra, or was too special, or too this, too that, and just feel what holy feels, what it feels like, all, all of that, you can only come to one conclusion, and that is to recognize that you are an aspect of God. It's like, think of the sun, S-U-N, and has all these rays that come out of the sun. An aspect of God is like a ray of the sun. One ray, and there are millions, bazillions of rays, does not diminish the sun. If anything, it expands it. It's what makes it look so beautiful because you got all these rays going, extending, and casting light everywhere. To allow ourselves to feel the truth of who we are is a key moment in the journey, because that's when you really begin to activate the wisdom necessary to stop seeking, to really acknowledge you are already that. Then the relationship, sorry, got somebody, give me a quick second. Let me, not expecting anybody, but let me just check. Give me a second here. Guys, I'm so sorry about that. Wasn't expecting anybody here, but pest control people wanted to know if we want a pest control. Um, so anyways, when you make the decision, and got my other little poster. I brought all my posters because I can't do a presentation without these, my trusted little posters. They were given to me so I would have visuals, and I, of course, I would share them. As we move on this journey and we begin the process of we're going down in frequency. We're basically going down into the realms of the ego. We get pulled down into that state of consciousness. Then Curiosity sends us on the journey of seeking, absolutely necessary. We move into the unlearning phase when we begin to understand, oh, I learned things that don't serve me. I learned that I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm separate from God. Some have, some don't have. I learned all of those things that filled up my ego that allows the ego then to go on this quest to become and to gather and to have and to do. So you got to unlearn that. You got to make a decision to begin to take information about what is true and what is not true, and you go through a process of sorting and sifting. And of course, that's when you're doing a lot of that dark night of the soul work, because you got to get in to the places where the wounds happened that allowed for those lies to seep in. The abandonment, the punishment, the rape, the beating, the abuse, or whatever it is. We have to go into the places where an immature self makes a decision to believe something that is not true. You can't get around that. That's just the way that it is. But then what happens is you do that work, you do that inner work, and you're no longer prickly and reacting to everything that people say and people do, and you don't get invited to something, you feel left out. You hear that somebody's doing something and you got FOMO, you fear missing out. When you're not so prickly that you are just constantly reacting to things, you begin to experience that quiet. You begin to, to me, I call this the maturing process. You do the child work here, so you're very prickly because as a wounded child, you're so sensitive and you're so worried about so many things. You begin to not be so prickly. You're maturing. You're cultivating the ability to be still and to be alone, and you enjoy it. Now you're moving into that wisdom phase, and that wisdom phase, this is when you begin to realize, I don't have to seek for anything. Then your relationship with your guides shifts, because your guides are trying to, point, okay, study this, study this, study this, study this. This will help you. This will, this book, this course, that teacher, all of it to support us. Here, now your guides are calling you in. Now you're not hearing guidance. For a while, I thought, it's like, why have you deserted me? I mean, I counted on you all this time. Where are you? But all of that was preparing me to come inside. And I'm talking, this has been about 10 years. This is about 2014, um, when I was going through went through my divorce with Ken, and Spencer actually, that's when he decided to stop doing drugs when he became sober the first time. Then he had a short period of time, a couple years later, where he went back to drinking for like a year, and then he realized not for him. But 2014 was an important time when so many things stopped that were keeping me busy. I mean, I was on a 4 year just trying to stay ahead of things with Spencer and his drug addiction, trying to save this marriage with Ken that had become clear, okay, that it's not going to happen. And then when all that ended, and it ended the same year, it ended almost the same month. It was crazy. It was like whew, I, what? I'm not married anymore, and I don't have a drug addicted kid anymore. It's like, okay, well, what do I do with my time? Well, what do I do is I came inside. I decided, okay, God, I've gotten through these two things, and I really feel a level of comfort, a level of certainty that I did my best, that I was as loving as I could be in the midst of these two things. That if the two of them wanted to say anything about me, they would have to be lying if they were going to say that I was not loving. And I knew both of them were not going to lie about what had happened. They were both very honestly acknowledging, you know, yes, mom, I put you through hell, but you were very loving through it. Ken would tell you, I know we went through a divorce, and Laina, you were very generous and kind throughout the whole process. And of course, his idea of generous is I asked for nothing. And I put it into our documents. I wanted nothing. because I wanted to make certain that he knew I didn't marry him for his money. And that was the only thing that he was going to listen to. Not my voice, not the receipts and the bank accounts, not that he couldn't point to things that I went and bought, sneaking so that he could pay for it. He couldn't point to any of those, but that wasn't enough. But when it was in the documents that a court and a judge said this is real, then he believed it. Oh, and then of course he acknowledged. And when I sat with that, it's like, okay, if they can say that I was loving and kind and generous through the process, what part of me was doing that? Because I know my head was not having necessarily always kind thoughts or generous thoughts, or I mean my ego was throwing darts and bashing as quickly as I could. But I had made the commitment to let love lead. And when love was leading, this is what they were experiencing, even though there was the chatter in the back of my head. And I sat with, that is the real me. All that talk, that commentator that was constantly having an opinion about what was going on, that I was constantly saying, I'm not going to listen to you. Nope, sit down, back of the bus. I am not listening to what you have to say. I began to realize how powerful love is. But we have to make the decision to let love lead the way. And when you do, when you acknowledge, well, this is what God is, this is what Jesus was teaching, this is what he was embodying, this is why he was kind to the ones that the world had marginalized, the prostitutes and the lepers and the this, that, or the other, because that is who we truly are. That is when my journey, the wisdom phase, began for me. And it was all about realizing that if I want to know the love of God, I have to be the love of God. How else? How else is the ray going to heat up anything if it doesn't be the aspect of the sun that it's emanating from? The sunshine and the warmth has to move with that ray. I am that ray of God. I am that child of God, and so are you. And if God is love, and God is holy, and God is powerful, and God is nothing but pure goodness, then we are that too. So we have to do a lot of work to override the voice in the head that tells us that we're not that. So when that is fully accepted and embodied, and it's taken me a while, and for some people it'll be faster, for some people it may be longer, but this is cumulative lifetimes of work being done. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Nothing special about me at all. But the work is to accept that you are holy. You know how difficult it is to accept that you are holy when the story in your head is that you're damaged, you're not good enough, you're a sinner, you're dirty, you're vile, you're less than, you're just whatever the history of your family is or your culture is or your lineage is. It's very difficult to accept the truth of who we are when we have a lie that we have been so invested in being right about. So it requires an incredible determination to override the storyteller in your head that only survives because you agree with its stories. Once you stop agreeing with that, it's not like you got to get rid of the ego. Ego is nothing but thoughts. It's a thought system. You stop thinking those thoughts, that thought system has hardly any power. Every now and again, I've come down to this era, which is so funny. Life is so humorous. So I have come to my daughter's house that she just recently bought this place in Florida. And she's turning it into an Airbnb. So it's an income property for her. And she just the way life works out, she wanted to be near family. She ended up buying this house in the very town that I actually moved to when I was 14 years old. Um, my mom is from the Dominican Republic. My dad's American. I grew up in the Dominican till I was 14. And then My parents got divorced. My dad moved to Florida and moved to a town called Largo in the Tampa Bay area. And I went to Largo High. Well, this house it's even though it's in the town next to it, literally there's one street and then there's Largo is driving around and it's like, oh my God, I'm back in Largo. It's like, okay, what do I have to heal? I'm here for a reason. There were some things that happened in Largo that were quite traumatic for me. So I'm going to go to the high school and I'm going to go check out those places. And see if there's anything there that I need to that still it's tethered somehow, and I need to forgive and release. But anyhow, pretty funny. It's amazing what happens when you commit to accept your holiness. The voices in your head will scream for a little while because you're about to put them out of a job. You're about to say to them, you're fired. And they don't want to be without a job because the ego lives off of your suffering. And if you're not suffering, it has no food to keep it going, to keep the story going, to keep coming up with evidence and supporting evidence and blaming and shaming and blah 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 blah. When you decide, nope, I'm going to accept that I am holy. I'm going to accept that I am the child of God. I am love. I am peace. I am joy. That is what I am. That ego begins to get really quiet. And in that stillness, you can hear God. Instead of guiding you from out there, you can feel the inspiration moving you. But it is so different because it's not the movement of the ego. I'm going to go do this. What am I going to get out of it? I'm going to get a job. How much are you going to pay me? I'm going to paint a painting. How much am I going to sell it for? I'm going to do this for my neighbor. I hope they bake me a cake. The ego does to get. The inspiration that comes from God is giving because you receive the joy of it. So different. It's absolutely, it's total opposite. You do what you do because it's joyful for you. You receive the joy. That's the only reason you do it. So here I am preparing for today, going, okay, God, what are we going to talk about today? Sitting there having my quiet time of inspiration, and it was like very clear. You're going to go to chapter 16 in the text because in A Course in Miracles, chapter 16 is the forgiveness of illusions. If you don't understand what that is, then it's very difficult to move to the place of accepting your holiness. And the first section is key, especially right now. As I said earlier, the script is written. Everybody that is going through anything in this world is exactly where they're at because the script is written. When you begin to accept that everything is unfolding as it should, and I know one of the first things that people say when they're newer on their journey, when you're just beginning here, you're still very close to control. You go, but what about the poor people who are suffering? And what about the innocent people? Yes, I hear you. What about the innocent people? That is the ego projecting onto others their victimization. If you're going to move into the wisdom phase, and I am certain many of you are, you've got to look at things very differently. This not only will accelerate your journey, and not that you have to be in a rush to get there, but why would you delay it? If you can be at peace, why would you want to say, oh, I can't rush this journey? Well, that's ego talk. You can accelerate the journey because all you're doing is accepting what you already are. The seeking is delaying because you're looking for what you are, not acknowledging that it's already there. So when you move to a chapter like this one, true empathy, this is beginning to show you how you have to flip your way of looking at the outer world. Because how we see the outer world is always a reflection of what's inside. If you're looking at victims out there, there's an unhealed victim in you. And that's okay. This is why we have a characteristic in the manual for teachers. Honesty is important. We got to say, oh, I'm seeing victims. There's a victim in me. There's a part of me that's still is needing something else to save me, which is why I'm blaming somebody else who hurt me, or I'm blaming this person who hurt somebody else. When you understand what the course is teaching, it flips a switch in your head, but you have to be absolutely prepared to acknowledge what is true and what is not true. So let's look at this section, true empathy. In my book, in my Course in Miracles book, it's page 330 in the text. So the forgiveness of illusions, we've got to forgive the illusions. We got to forgive what we made up to have the human game. And it's an important game. It's, we played it so that we could relate to one another. And that's just the way we all come in. We're born, we drop down, and then we begin the journey of remembering. So, paragraph 1, to empathize does not mean to join in suffering, for that is what you must refuse to understand. You've got to refuse thinking that empathy has anything to do with suffering. The ego loves, oh, I empathize with you. I feel your pain. I've been there. I know what it's like to lose a child, or I know what it's like to. That's the ego joining in on the suffering. Common down here. But if you understand that there are two timelines right now, and you recognize that you have chosen to be on the timeline of ascension, which is the timeline of creating a new earth, of creating a world where we operate from our highest consciousness, then you cannot be joining in suffering. Because to join in suffering is to go, well, that's terrible that that happened, which does not honor the lessons that those opportunities have presented. So it's like we're going to wipe away what you could be learning, and we're just going to stay down here and wait for somebody else to come and save us. Ego loves that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that is going to lead to a different reality, a reality where we still operate with the bully and the victim mentality. If you've made the decision, which is activating wisdom, you know what? I really rather have it be the fun and easy way. I rather this be a journey where we help each other, where we collaborate and support each other and co-create. That is possible. It's not so common for the world that we have been living in, which is competitive and haves and have nots and the 1% and the 99 and blah, 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 blah. It's divisive. But if you want the new earth, you got to start thinking like someone who is acknowledging the new earth, because we're not going to see it there and then we're going to go, oh, there's a new earth. It doesn't have a sign. The new earth comes from within. We are becoming the change we want to see in the world. We are the new earth. And the new earth is the result of somebody who has chosen to wake up in the dream. And now we're going to turn it into a happy dream. We're dreaming in separation. If you have a body and you believe you are who you think you are, and you're separate from your partner or your child or your cat or your friend or your dog, then you're still in the dream. So let's get honest about that. Okay, I'm still in the dream. Do I want a happy dream, or do I want a dream of suffering? It's really that simple. That's all that it is. Sentence number 2 says, well, let me read one again so I can tie it together. So to empathize does not mean to join in suffering, for that is what you must refuse to understand. That is the ego's interpretation of empathy, and is always used to form a special relationship in which the suffering is shared. Keyword shared. While we share in the suffering, we validate it, and that continues to create the frequency of suffering. Oh, yes, this is terrible. This happened to you. This happened to me. Now we're unpacking our suffering and we're comparing the suffering and who's got more suffering. What are we doing? We are just filling up our space with boxes filled with suffering. You move into true empathy, it's a whole different ballgame, and we're going to get to that in a second. Sentence 3, the capacity to empathize is very useful to the Holy Spirit, provided you let Him use it in His way. His way is very different. He does not understand suffering and would have you teach it is not understandable. You have to get to the place where you realize in my Father's house there is no suffering. That which is holy and peaceful and happy, I don't know what suffering is. You've got to become that innocent child that it's almost like you're going to have to say, no, no speak English here. No comprendo. I don't understand what suffering is. When you get to a peaceful place, suffering makes no sense. Like when you were a little kid and you were growing up in joy, and all of a sudden your parent had a bad day and they come out angry, and you're like, whoa, what happened here? You don't understand what happened to dad. Why, what did all of a sudden, or mom, why did all of a sudden they flip? Because you were just used to love, joy, and peace, and then all of a sudden they got fired and they come home angry, and you've never seen that before. Well, that's what's happening here. Sentence six. When he relates through you, he does not relate through your ego to another ego. He does not join in pain, understanding that healing pain is not accomplished by delusional attempts to enter into it and lighten it by sharing the delusion. The Holy Spirit, once you have created enough space within you to listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit, it cannot relate with egos down here. It does not see pain. Holy Spirit only sees your ability to have obstacles placed in your way for you to overcome them and return to the truth of who you are. Ego says this obstacle stopped me from being who I am, kept me from being happy. This divorce ruined my life. This firing ruined everything. To the Holy Spirit, no, that was just an opportunity for you to strengthen yourself, to have more of what you want, to have more happiness, to have more joy. You couldn't see that the job that let you go was just opening up the space for the job that you really wanted to have, but because the ego is so narrow minded and it's got blinders on, you can't see the big picture. Holy Spirit does. So the Holy Spirit is not going to join with you to empathize with another person on how bad things are. It will join with you and use empathy when you're feeling like, oh, sweet person, I'm sorry that you're hurting, is going to take that compassion and change your perception to see the opportunity before you, not the problem. Does that make sense? Because this is it's a very important distinction that we have to make if we are moving into the path of the happy dream. Because in the happy dream, there are no victims. There are no victims because there are no bullies, because nobody is trying to defend themselves or protect themselves or attack anybody else. The happy dream is for all of those who understand that we're equal. We're all equal because that is how God created us. So if I can overcome something, so can you. Instead of comparing my suffering with yours and see, oh, who suffered more? Who's going to get the bigger price for the bigger suffering? Who's the bigger victim here? We're going to move to encouraging and supporting and recognizing that we all have the same opportunity to overcome anything and everything because we are entitled to miracles. So in paragraph number 2, the clearest proof that empathy as the ego uses it is destructive lies in the fact that it is applied only to certain types of problems and in certain people. These it selects out and joins with, and it never joins except to strengthen itself. So when you watch the news, do you gravitate to the victim that they tell you is a victim? Or do you stay in that 30,000-foot view where you look at the big picture? This is how you can tell. If you zero in, oh, poor so and so, look at what they did to so and so. And we're going to blame that one. If you rush in to have, because your emotions get activated, this is how you know the ego's running the show. You're still prickly because the ego is getting, activated with stuff. That means there's still a lot in you that needs to be healed, which is okay. This is why we're given all these teachings to help us heal. And but the honesty is so important because honesty is the ability to begin to call things what they are. So it tells you right here, the clearest proof that empathy is being used by the ego in a destructive way is we rush to find who to blame. We've got the victim, we identify them, and we're going to defend them. And then we're going to find somebody to blame. Now, we're going to project all of our attacks on the one that we're going to blame, and we're going to feel sorry for the victim. So we're projecting our own victimization on that one. And we're attacking the one that we haven't had the opportunity to do our own healing work with. And this is how you know the ego is being destructive. Why? Because it's just adding more low density baggage to the world, making the planet denser. It's like pouring sewage and adding more to what has to be cleaned up later on. Sentence number 4. Having identified with what it thinks it understands, the ego sees itself and would increase itself by sharing what is like itself. The ego does not share love, joy, and peace. The ego shares victimization, righteousness, anger, shame, victimization. That is what the ego shares. It identifies with that, but we don't even know it. We think we're being, empathy and compassion. We're going to take care of the victim and we're going to, throw money to their defense fund. Course tells us in our defenselessness, our safety lies. Why would we want to set up a defend fund? Well, it's because we're listening to the ego, not to the Holy Spirit. We got to understand what this is all about. Not that we don't want to set up something to assist if we're going to need to get legal stuff. Yet then recognize you're playing the human game and then play it consciously. But if you're playing the game of co-creating a happy dream, it's a whole different set of rules. Why? Because those are God's laws. These are man-made laws. These are God laws. So you got to decide, where are you? Which side are you going to be participating in? Which side are you going to strengthen? Sentence 5 says, make no mistake about this maneuver. The ego always empathizes to weaken, and to weaken is always to attack. Poor person, look at what was done to you. You poor, weak person. Now you have been made less because of this. You have been, your freedom was taken away, your whatever was taken away, your life was taken away. You poor person, to weaken, you are less than. You see how crazy that is? If you're a holy being, what was taken from you? If death doesn't even exist, why are we feeling sorry somebody just, died? Again, if you're listening to me just saying that one little bit, you probably think that woman is crazy. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. You would have to know my whole story to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. If you're on a journey to acknowledge that you are not a body and you are free, you have to make a choice. Again, this is where maturity comes in. Is death real, or is eternalness real? If the eternal part of you is what is real, why are you suffering over that which is temporary? And I'm going to be really clear, while we are in human form, people are going to come and go. We are going to feel sadness. That is absolutely perfectly okay. Like Viktor Frankl coined in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Highly recommend that book. It's one of my favorite books. He wrote it while he was in the Holocaust. And while he was in the Holocaust, he was a Jew whose family, I believe he watched his wife and parents murdered. Or at the very least taken away, never saw them again. So the assumption is maybe that they were murdered. I don't remember that detail of the book. But he was I think, psychologist or psychiatrist. And when he was in the concentration camps, Those Nazis knew what he was. They knew his work. And they would go to him, to help them move through their suffering. Those Nazi guards were suffering. They had to kill people. They didn't want to kill those people, but they had to kill those people or they were going to get shot, or they were going to lose their job, or they wouldn't get, and if they lost their job, they didn't get their paycheck, and their wife and children would be ostracized, would have nothing. So he's dealing here with the people, the abusers who are doing things that wasn't natural. So he's helping these guards deal with their own discomfort. While then they have to look tough when the boss comes in and they're checking and doing all their, Hi Hitler or whatever stuff they're doing. And they have to look like they're tough and yeah, we'll kill anybody on the spot. But yet the truth about it is that they're hurting. So uh, Viktor Frankl coined a very famous line. Pain is inevitable. He saw it. The pain was inevitable. People were getting shot. People were getting hit. People were getting starved. Pain was everywhere. He couldn't change that. And the second part of that sentence is suffering is optional. So here we are in the middle of a concentration camp. This man is helping these guys who are inflicting this pain for their own survival, their own protecting themselves, and letting them know they didn't have to suffer. Because he recognized he didn't have to suffer because he lost the people that he lost. He knew, I've got a connection with God. I'm eternal. Again, read that book. It's very powerful. He was a teacher of God inside of the concentration camps. And those are the people that are living A Course in Miracles. They're embodying the truth. They make a choice. Yes, I'm in a world of suffering. Yes, somebody got shot, somebody got hit, somebody lost their job, somebody, was stabbed. Yes, we understand that, but we don't need to join in the suffering. Instead, we can go to what Victor did. Let's find the place in you where the light is. Let's find the place in you where you can have compassion and forgiveness for yourself. Can you forgive yourself for the things that you did today? Can we end the day with you forgiving yourself for the 4,300 people you put in the gas chamber? How about we forgive that? Tomorrow starts a brand new day. Let's leave that. I'm not going to hold that against you. Can you not hold it against you? You're just doing your job. And when you look at the bigger picture, that was an important time. Do you realize that one of the greatest shifts that happened for humanity, that shifted our trajectory, was precisely because of what happened in Nazi Germany? That was a cry for the biggest cry for help, where the whole world had a gasp of, how can we do this to one another? Now, a lot of those things had to play themselves out. They're still playing themselves out. But it was a collective desire to shift trajectories, to move us in the direction of that happy dream. And it wasn't too many years, a couple of decades, then we get the Course in Miracles that is preparing our minds to be ready for where we are now. If you look at the big picture, you see the points that began shifting things. To me, this is Nazi Germany. How low can humanity go? How low as a collective can we go? Not individually, but as a collective. And then this planet began to shift. This planet is on ascension trajectory. Not everybody wants to go there. Some people want to remain in the dark. Some people want to remain in the suffering and the right, right and wrong. That's okay. They get to have that timeline split. But as a collective, this world said no more of that. But it wasn't going to end overnight. You've got too many moving parts that have to be recalibrated, that everybody has to do their own individual work inside for it to be a collective thing. But it was a collective gasp because we are being watched, where humanity said, no, we can't keep doing it this way. And then the U-turn began. But again, we get to decide how deep are we going to go. Here, the Course in Miracles is telling us the ego only empathizes to weaken. And to weaken is always to attack. That's halfway through sentence number 5 in paragraph 2. Sentence 6 says, you do not know what empathizing means, yet of this you may be sure. You will merely sit quietly by and let the Holy Spirit relate through you. You will empathize with strength and will gain in strength and not in weakness. When we understand that we've made the choice to listen to that voice for love, the voice for God, you're not going to listen to the ego. The ego goes to feel sorry. Oh, poor us. Weaken. Holy Spirit says, wow, you got through that? You got fired from that job? Tell me about your dreams. What would you like to see happen instead? Tell me about that perfect job that you've been wanting. Tell me about, just talk to me about your dreams. Not that we're going to deny that they're suffering. If they need to cry, let them cry and say, call me after you've done your crying. And then I want to sit here with you and focus on what really inside of you wants to come out. What is that thing that you've been dying to share with the world? What is that? You told me about this thing you were so inspired about. Be that friend, be that partner, be that person who reminds the other of their own magnificence. That's what the Holy Spirit will do through you if you don't join to weaken. Paragraph number 3. Your part is, I love this. Your part is only to remember this. You do not want anything you value to come of a relationship, meaning the ego. What does the ego value? I need to be right. There's good and there's bad. There's attack and defense. There is right and wrong. You don't want any of that. That's the old way. That's the old world. So I'm going to read that again. Your part is only to remember this. You do not want anything you value to come of a relationship. You choose neither to hurt it nor to heal it in your own way, meaning the ego. You do not know what healing is. All you have learned of empathy is from the past, and there is nothing from the past that you would share, for there is nothing from the past that you would keep. This is why, when you're complete with something happened, maybe it wasn't something that you wanted, let it go. Okay, tomorrow's a new day. We want to learn to not operate from the past. This is why we have to do so much work. When we're going through this circle, we are doing so much work untethering ourselves from what we learned in the past, letting go of those circumstances, those situations, what was said to us in 3rd grade, what was done to us in 8th grade, what the first boyfriend did, the first girlfriend did. We need to untether ourselves from the past, because that's the old world. That's the world that the ego has built. So because we don't understand what healing is all about. Sentence 6. Do not use empathy to make the past real and so perpetuate it. Step gently aside and let healing be done for you. Keep but one thought in mind and do not lose sight of it. However tempted you may be to judge any situation and to determine your response by judging it. Focus your mind only on this. And this is what we're going to complete with today. This beautiful statement, sentence 10, I am not alone, and I would not intrude the past upon my guest. Sentence 11, I have invited him, and he is here. 12, I need do nothing except not to interfere. This is such a mature statement. This is you saying, I have invited the Holy Spirit. I have invited God. I have invited love to show me something new. I am not going to interfere. Your job then is to keep your ego out of it. Your job is to become the one who is observing what is happening, hearing the ego talking, saying, oh, that's terrible. And you don't let those words come out of your mouth. You're playing interference. You're saying, no, ego wants to feel bad. Holy Spirit, what do you want to feel? What do you want to do? And Holy Spirit doesn't know anything about suffering. Holy Spirit only knows about perfection. Holy Spirit would only say, you've got this. You've got this. You're a holy child of God. We're going to get through this. If you focus on that which is your birthright, you have the whole universe conspiring with you. And to me, to understand true empathy is why for me, I can't really do a whole lot of teaching for people early on in the journey because I'm at the place where I just don't see, I don't see anything wrong with what they're experiencing that they want to convince me is so terrible. And so they need people who can meet them where they're at, unless that happens to be somebody whose path has crossed with mine, because like Jesus said to the leopard, all I can say is get up and walk. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, tell me about when did you catch this leprosy? How old were you? And tell me about your situation. And let's talk about, the inner work and blah, 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 blah. None of that. It would be just, buddy, get up and walk. You can do it. At some point, when you accept how powerful you are, you cannot see anybody else other than a powerful being also. Because we are projectors. In this human experience, we project onto another what we believe is true about us. While we're in the ego, we project our suffering, we project our weakness, we project our we're a bully, we project our bullying on them and turn them into our victims. But when you start moving into that place where you realize that we are all one, we are all here to support each other, to uplift each other, it's just that's not the game that we've been playing collectively. But when you recognize that more and more are joining in on that game, that's why the world is splitting. Timelines are splitting. You can see it very clearly. There's some people, maybe even in your own family, you can't talk to about certain things because there's no opening. There's no curiosity. There's no willingness to be open-minded. So to me, it's like, I don't waste my time doing that. I used to try to convince some of my sisters and some of my friends, you got to get this. This is going to save your life. I don't do that anymore. How do I know that's going to save their life? They're where they're supposed to be because they too have a script that is perfectly co-created for them. I respect that. And when I see people, I only see powerful people. Yes, some may be playing roles where it appears that there is, weakness or suffering or they've been hurt. And then I do my best to try and help and support and alleviate from that human side, but not to join in with their ego about how they can't handle this, how this shouldn't have happened. There's no point in doing that because I see everything as an opportunity to move us to where we said we wanted to be. And nothing is going to stop what's coming. Every single one of us that has incarnated with a script, and we know if we're going to be on the timeline of ascension or on the timeline of repetition of the same old same old. And this world is going to become really clear, and it's becoming easier and easier to see that we have chosen one trajectory versus another. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to get really honest. Am I still listening to the ego? Am I still seeing suffering out there in the world that I'm judging? Or have I made the decision to allow myself to live under no laws but God's? Because under God's laws, number one, I'm an eternal being. Number two, I have the ability to create. I was created by God to create. What do I want to create instead? Holy Spirit, help me figure out how to create these things that I want to see that are coming from a place within me that wants to extend the love of God. And you will be supported. The other timeline is a timeline that we are allowed to have for those who need a little bit more time in the dream. Nobody is going to be shaken out of their sleep if they're not ready for that. That's not loving. That is not kind. These are exciting times, super, super exciting times. And understanding what true empathy is all about is key to noticing. Do you side with the ego and go down into suffering, or are you siding with the Holy Spirit and helping um, ground yourself in the wisdom of knowing that nothing is out of order because everything is held within God? It must be so. And until that is something that you know with certainty, you will waffle between the two, and nothing wrong with that. That's okay. And again, this is why we have honesty. You got to be honest. If you slip into that empathy and joining and suffering, call it out. Say, oh, wow, there for a second, I really felt bad for this person and thought that this was a terrible thing. And then you forgive yourself. This is why this is called the forgiveness of illusions. This whole chapter is called the forgiveness of illusions. I forgive myself for a little bit thinking that this should not have happened. If it happened, it was supposed to happen. It's one of the things that that wisdom teaches you. If it's happening, it's because it's supposed to happen. There is nothing that is happening that shouldn't happen. If it shouldn't happen, it wouldn't happen. It's that simple. Truth is simple. Thank you all so much for being here. It feels so good to feel energetic and vibrant again. I guess Holy Spirit, I wanted to stick around and continue on this fun journey. This is really a fun journey. Oh my goodness, there's just so much fun to be had in this time of ascension, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it and do my little part. Anyways, if anybody wants to share any thoughts, any takeaways, great. If not, perfectly okay. This was episode 229, and again, January 28th in 2026. 2026. Wow, time flies. All right, nobody's unmuting. Okay, see you guys later. Love you all. Bye bye.